There is a specific, terrifying kind of silence that visits you only after you have survived the worst. It does not come when you are fighting for your life. It comes when the fight is over. It arrives when the dust settles, when the safety returns, and when you are finally, supposedly, okay. You look around at your life, perhaps a stable job, a quiet room, a steady relationship, the very things you prayed for when you were in the trenches of your suffering, and instead of gratitude, you feel a crushing, suffocating weight. You feel an alien sensation that scares you more than the pain ever did. You feel that this safety is not enough. You feel a desperate, clawing need to burn it down, to find the edge again, to feel something, anything, real. You ask yourself the question that makes you feel insane. Why can't I just be happy now that the pain is gone? This is the secret you keep from everyone, perhaps even from yourself, until late at night. You are living the good life by every metric the world gives you. You have food, you have shelter, you have the absence of immediate threat. The war, whether it was a literal war, a traumatic childhood, a period of deep poverty, or a psychological collapse, is over. The treaty has been signed. You are surviving. But survival feels like a dull ache in your bones. You wake up in the morning, and the sunlight hitting the floor doesn't look like promise. It looks like a stage set. It looks flat. You go through the motions of the day: coffee, work, conversation, entertainment, and it feels like you are watching a movie of someone else living. You eat, but the food has no taste. You laugh, but the sound stops in your throat. You are constantly checking your internal temperature, waiting for a spike of emotion that never comes. You start to notice a disturbing pattern in your behavior. When things get too calm, you create chaos. You pick a fight with a partner who loves you. You procrastinate on a project until the adrenaline of the deadline mimics the feeling of survival. You drink too much, scroll too much, or drive too fast, just to pierce the veil of numbness. You find yourself missing the chaos. You find yourself nostalgic for the time when you were suffering, because at least back then, the stakes were real. At least back then, you knew exactly who you were, a survivor. Now, in the peace, you are nobody. You are a ghost haunting your own comfortable life. The judgment is swift and brutal. You tell yourself you are broken. You tell yourself you are addicted to drama. You look at normal people enjoying their normal lives, smiling at a sunset, enjoying a simple dinner, and you feel a mix of envy and contempt. You think, why is that enough for them? And why is it torture for me? You wonder if the trauma damaged your dopamine receptors permanently, if you are physiologically incapable of joy. You fear that you are destined to destroy every good thing you touch because you simply cannot tolerate the boredom of peace. But what if I told you that this intolerance for normal life is not a symptom of damage, but a symptom of vision? What if I told you that you are not broken, but that you have accidentally graduated from the illusion that sustains everyone else? The profound dissatisfaction you feel with the shallow version of living that most people accept is not a regression. It is the first, disorienting sign of a cognitive and existential awakening. You have broken the spell of the primary hedonic illusion. The state you are trying to return to, that place of simple, uncomplicated pleasure, was an illusion built on necessity. It was the psychological foundation required for you to survive the early, unexamined parts of your life. It operated on a simple, comforting equation: stimulus equals satisfaction. Effort equals reward. Pleasure equals meaning. The primary hedonic illusion is the belief that external inputs can permanently fill internal voids. We are conditioned from birth to operate under this paradigm. You feel bad by this, you feel empty, watch this, you feel restless, do this intense thing. This system works perfectly for the unexamined life because it provides an immediate, though temporary, sense of completion. It creates a state of anesthetized sufficiency. You are just sufficient enough, just stimulated enough, to keep going without ever having to confront the vast, echoing silence beneath the noise. But trauma, profound suffering, or even just a deep, sustained look into the void, acts like a corrosive acid on this illusion. When you're faced with a genuine existential threat, a loss that changes the texture of reality, a pain that cannot be medicated, a truth about yourself you can no longer outrun, the hedonic illusion collapses. True suffering is the one experience that is so radically real, it makes all temporary pleasures look like cheap tinsel. It forces a fundamental recalibration of what meaning and realness even are. The German philosopher Martin Heidegger wrestled with this idea in his concept of Befindlichkeit or Overmind. He understood that most people live in a state of fallenness, lost in the collective chatter, absorbed by the temporary pleasures of the day. For Dasemann, they are distracted from the truth of their own being. But he also knew that certain intense, overwhelming emotions, like deep anxiety or angst, shock you out of this distraction. Anxiety reveals the raw, unadorned fact of your existence and the ultimate meaninglessness of the things you use to cover it up. You have been shocked out of Dasemann. Your suffering was that anxiety, that raw exposure. The old mechanisms, the easy pleasures, the quick fixes, the simple satisfaction of getting a reward, no longer work on you because your internal barometer for reality has been permanently elevated. You are like a deep-sea diver who has lived for months in the crushing, pure blackness of the abyss and is now asked to be satisfied with the shallow, murky water near the surface. The pressure is different, the light is a lie, the whole world has been This is the profound dilemma of the post-hedonic individual. You can no longer find satisfaction in the normal routes, but you are not yet equipped to handle the real satisfaction that waits in the silence. So, you engage in counter-hedonic loops. You seek out intensity, conflict, or even auto-destruction because, perversely, they offer a form of authentic, unanesthetized presence. The pain, the risk, the drama, these things at least feel real and present in a way that safe, simple pleasure no longer can. Let me give you an analogy to illustrate this disorienting transition. Imagine you are living in a house with no windows, a room constructed entirely for your comfort. The walls are softly padded, the lighting is a warm, constant amber glow, and all your needs are met by automated systems that respond instantly to your slightest desire. This is the primary hedonic illusioner, perfect, comforting, predictable world where nothing truly real can hurt you, but nothing truly real can reach you either. You are perfectly satisfied, perfectly sedated. Then, a fissure appears in the wall. Perhaps it was a sustained trauma, a sudden loss, or a philosophical realization that shattered your conditioned safety. The fissure exposes a sliver of the world outside. Not just outside the room, but outside the entire structure of the illusion. Through this crack, you see a momentary glimpse of starlight, the raw, cold, terrifying infinity of the actual universe. This glimpse is the element of change. And now, everything inside the comfort room becomes intolerable. The warm lighting feels like a lie. The soft walls feel like a cage, and the instant gratification feels utterly empty. You smash the wall, not because you want to destroy the room, but because you need to get to the starlight. The moment you step outside is the moment of disorientation. You don't find instant comfort or immediate bliss. Instead, you find cold, vast, echoing silence. The light from the stars is beautiful, but it is also indifferent. You are confronted by the immense, non-negotiable fact of your solitude and finitude. The absence of the room's constant, warm, artificial glow is perceived as a devastating, painful loss. You are used to being fulfilled by a system. Now, that system is gone, and what remains is an emptiness so large it feels like a wound. You might be tempted to frantically start building a new comfort room, or to light up 1,000 small, distracting fires in the cold to feel warm again. This is the usual mistake. But the resolution of this metaphor is this. Once your eyes adjust, you realize the cold silence is not the absence of life, but the absolute fullness of reality. The vastness you perceive as emptiness is actually the space of possibility. Inside the comfort room, you are perfectly satisfied but completely inert. Outside, you are terrified, but you are finally awake. The freedom you were looking for was never the absence of pain. It was the ability to stand under the starlight, unshielded, and still choose to exist. This is what's happening when you find yourself destroying what is good for you, or when you are bored with normal life. You are not a destructive person. You are a seeker of unmediated reality. The comfort room of the hedonic illusion, which worked perfectly for your survival, now feels like a prison because it blocks the starlight. Your desire for intensity, for the edge, is a desperate, misdirected attempt to feel that pure, unmediated presence again. And if you've been resonating with this, maybe it's time to join the space where we go deeper every week. You know where the button is? Now, I must warn you about the most seductive false solution, the path that guarantees you will recycle the trauma, the frantic search for a new high, because you've mistaken intensity for reality. Your usual response when boredom or emptiness hits is to seek a more powerful version of the old fix. You try to scale the hedonic ladder. If simple pleasure doesn't work, you seek intense pleasure. If a normal connection bores you, you seek out a volatile, intense, dramatic connection. If a simple hobby is flat, you seek out a dangerous sport or a high-stakes, stressful environment. This is the escalation metaphor. You are trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom, but instead of fixing the hole, which would mean confronting the void, you are simply getting a bigger hose and turning up the pressure. The problem is that your threshold for realness is now so high that the only thing that registers is something that forces your whole being into the present moment. Risk, chaos, or profound pain. This pursuit creates a psychological feedback loop that feeds the very emptiness it seeks to escape. The emptiness is a constant, unassailable presence. The intensity is fleeting. So, you chase the fleeting, and the void grows stronger with every failed attempt. This is the auto-destructive hedonic paradox, a hunger that feeds on itself. The pursuit of feeling more makes you feel fundamentally less over time. The more you drink the salt water of intensity, the thirstier you become. You are running on a treadmill of cortisol and adrenaline, believing you are moving toward meaning, when in reality, you are simply wearing out your own soul. This brings us to the introduction of the new paradigm. If intensity is the false solution, and returning to simple pleasure is impossible, what is the third way? What is necessary is an act of radical inversion. You must stop chasing the more, and start sinking into the less. You must stop running from the silence, and start listening to it. The new state is not bliss or contentment, it is existential coherence. Existential coherence is the state where your internal experience is no longer fighting the non-negotiable facts of reality, that life is finite, that meaning is self-generated, and that the void is a permanent, silent partner. It is not an absence of pain, but an absence of resistance to pain, and an absence of dependence on pleasure. Here's what you must understand about this new state. It doesn't feel like the high-definition, sensory explosion you associate with living. It feels quiet. It feels simple. It feels deeply, profoundly unconditional. It is not dependent on a success, a relationship, an achievement, or a chemical change. It manifests as a deep sense of unshakable presence. It is the simple, non-dramatic feeling of being there, not running from, not chasing after. It is the experience of the moment, not as a stepping stone to the next pleasure, but as an end in itself. The paradox of the hedonic illusion is that the pursuit of external pleasure only serves to amplify the internal void. The paradox of existential coherence is that by accepting the void as a natural, non-threatening aspect of reality, you realize that the space of true meaning has always resided there. Let me introduce the metaphor of discovery. You have been frantically searching for the key to your happiness, looking under rocks, buying expensive gadgets, and chasing fast cars. All the while, the key was never lost. It was hanging on a simple wooden hook just inside the doorway of your own interior. It was right there, but it was so mundane, so non-dramatic, so easily available, that your conditioned mind, hungry for complexity and intensity, kept running right past it. It was too simple to be the solution. The key is radical, unedited presence. The willingness to feel the emptiness as emptiness without immediately overlaying it with a need to fill it. Now, I must warn you about something that will feel like a betrayal of everything you've learned when you first experience existential coherence. You might think it sounds rather dull, painful, or boring. You have been conditioned to equate intensity with realness. You believe that if you are not feeling a profound jolt of pleasure or a deep throb of pain, you are somehow wasting your life or failing to live fully. Your mind will crave the familiar noise of the chase. It will scream, "This quiet is dangerous. This lack of a goal is death." But we must reframe this entirely. Why is intensity and constant pleasure unsustainable? Because they demand a cost, the surrender of your autonomy to the external stimulus. You are only happy on the condition that the thing, person, or drug is present. This conditional existence is the ultimate existential cost of the hedonic chase. The new state, this existential coherence, is not intense in the way a roller coaster is intense. It is intense in the way that holding a newborn or watching a star die is intense, a profound, quiet, non-dramatic sense of being present for the truth of the universe. It doesn't rely on the external world to create the feeling. It relies on your internal world to stop resisting the feeling that is already there. If this is hitting different for you, consider staying. We explore these depths every single week. Let me tell you about Eleanor, who perfectly embodied the primary hedonic illusion. Eleanor was a highly successful executive who measured her worth by the volume of her life. She was addicted to the peak experience, the highest stakes deals, the most expensive travel, the most tumultuous and passionate relationships. She was, by all accounts, living life to the fullest. But beneath the surface, she was using the sheer, exhausting volume of her life to outrun the memory of an isolating, empty childhood. She believed that if she could make her external life loud enough, the quiet voice of the past would be silenced. Her crisis came not from a failure, but from a terrifying success. She closed the biggest deal of her career, the one she had promised herself would finally satisfy her. For one night, she felt invincible. But the next morning, sitting alone on her penthouse balcony, staring at the city she had just conquered, she felt an emptiness so vast it swallowed her whole. It was worse than any pain she'd felt. It was a confirmation that the goal was a lie. Her meticulously constructed hedonic system had utterly collapsed. She tried the usual fixes, another trip, another fling, another project, nothing worked. Her turning point was profoundly anticlimactic. She was sitting in the back of a taxi, stuck in traffic, furious at the delay, craving the next frantic thing, when she simply gave up. She didn't have a spiritual epiphany, she just dropped the resistance. She let the anger, the boredom, the terror of the emptiness simply be there. For the first time in years, she wasn't doing anything to the feeling, she was just feeling it. And in that moment, the anger wasn't a problem to be solved with a distraction. It was just a sensation, a pulse of energy. Her new understanding wasn't a sudden rush of joy. It was the simple recognition that the traffic, the anger, and the emptiness were all equally real. She now operates not from a place of seeking the high, but from a place of simple truth. She still enjoys success, but her enjoyment is additive to her life, not conditional upon it. She is no longer trying to fill a void. She is simply living in a space that is already whole. This transition you are in the middle of now, this feeling that living is not enough, is not a gentle course correction. It is a fundamental process of transformation that feels like dying because something is dying. What is dying is the conditioned self-to-self that was created and sustained by the illusion that it could be completed by external inputs. That self is decomposing. You are experiencing the decomposition of a massive, lifelong psychological structure. Imagine the image of a great forest fire. From the perspective of the creatures and plants consumed, it is pure, absolute destruction. It is terrifying, chaotic, and final. But the process of transformation is in the ashes. The fire doesn't destroy the life force. It breaks down the old, rigid structures, the accumulation of dead wood and old growth, and transforms it into the fertile, nutrient-dense soil required for the next level of life. You are currently in the middle of the burn, and you are looking at the ashes and wondering, why is the old life not enough? It isn't enough because the old life was the dead wood. This is not a mistake. This is how the process works. The void is not your enemy. It is the rich, black soil of your next existence. When you look at the emptiness and feel fear, you are looking at the raw potentiality of your unconditioned being. The psychological self that operated on the stimulus equals satisfaction equation is dissolving, and the raw, unconditioned self that remains feels terrifyingly large, empty, and free. You must validate this. The fear is real because the loss of the old, familiar structure is a kind of death. Given this, the instructions for the new paradigm are entirely paradoxical. The first instruction is a clear affirmation of non-doing. You cannot technique your way out of the void. Any effort you make to force the new state, any attempt to implement a 5-step plan to feel fulfilled, is simply the old hedonic self trying to manage the process. That effort is the resistance, and resistance is what perpetuates the emptiness. So, what is the simple, concrete action to take? It is the practice of radical habitation. First, you must habit the impulse. When the urge for intensity, distraction, or self-sabotage arises, you must not fight it. Instead, you must sit with it and give it your quiet attention. Observe the impulse as if it were a strange piece of weather passing through your interior. Say to yourself, I am feeling the urge to sabotage this peaceful evening. Do not judge it. Do not analyze its root cause. Simply notice the sensation, the energy, the pull. By observing it without reacting, you create a microscopic vital gap between the stimulus and your response. Second, you must inhabit the void. When the profound emptiness or boredom arrives, treat it like an honored, albeit uncomfortable guest. Do not turn on the television. Do not seek the drink. Do not pick up the phone to scroll through the curated lives of others. Simply sit with the sensation. Where is it located in your body? Is it a tightness in the chest? A heaviness in the stomach? What is the texture of the silence? This is not a search for a solution. It is a search for presence. By remaining in the chair when every fiber of your being wants to run, you are proving to your nervous system that the void is a non-fatal condition. You are retraining your brain to understand that the absence of stimulation is not the presence of death. Third, you must cultivate unconditioned attention. You must relearn how to do one thing at a time. The hedonic illusion thrives on multitasking because multitasking keeps you skim-reading your own life. You are eating while watching a screen. You are walking while listening to a podcast. You are never fully here. Pick one mundane activity per day: washing the dishes, folding laundry, drinking coffee. Do it with the intensity of a bomb diffusal expert. Feel the temperature of the water on your hands. Feel the texture of the fabric. Smell the roast of the bean. Narrate the action in your head. I am lifting the cup. I am feeling the warmth. I am placing it down. This sounds ridiculous to the high-achieving mind. It sounds too simple. But remember, you are addicted to complexity because complexity hides the truth. Simplicity reveals it. By bringing your total attention to a simple act, you are training your brain to find satisfaction in presence rather than in outcome. You are teaching yourself that the high is not at the end of the rainbow. It is in the act of walking. And here is what you must stop doing immediately. You must issue a cease and desist order to the escalation committee in your brain. Stop looking for the next peak experience. Stop anesthetizing genuine emotions like pain, grief, or anger with temporary fixes. Stop comparing your internal feeling of flatness to anyone else's external, curated happiness. You look at your friends and think, they are so happy with their simple lives. You don't know that. They might be asleep in the illusion. You are awake outside of it. Do not envy the sleepers. Stop seeking validation from the world for the reality of your suffering. The world cannot validate a depth it has not experienced. The final practical paradox is this: the moment you stop running from the emptiness is the moment it ceases to be empty. The resistance to the void is what gives the void its power over you. Acceptance is the ultimate subversive act against the hedonic illusion because it dismantles the engine of the chase entirely. The fullness you seek is not beyond the emptiness. It is the emptiness itself, fully inhabited. If you've been resonating with this, maybe it's time to join the space where we go deeper every week. You know where the button is? Now, we must go deeper into the architecture of this silence. What is there really? When the noise stops, the philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer was perhaps the most pessimistic regarding the human condition, believing life was a pendulum swinging endlessly between pain and boredom. When we lack something, we feel pain. When we get it, we feel boredom. He argued that the will to live, that blind, driving force inside, is insatiable. You are feeling the truth of Schopenhauer's pendulum. You escaped the pain of your trauma, and the pendulum swung instantly to the boredom of peace. And now, instinctively, you want to swing it back to pain, just to feel movement. You would rather bleed than feel nothing. But there is a way to stop the pendulum. Schopenhauer suggested that aesthetic contemplation was the escape. To look at something without wanting to consume it. This is what I am asking you to do with your life. Turn your life into a work of art that you observe, rather than a resource that you consume. When you sit in your quiet room and the silence feels oppressive, shift your perspective. See the silence as a canvas, see the boredom as a color. You are the painter. The hedonic individual asks, what can the world give me? The post-hedonic individual asks, how can I perceive this world? This transition requires a fierce, warrior-like courage. It is the courage to be nothing. It is the courage to be nobody. It is the courage to sit with yourself when you are not performing success, or performing trauma, or performing happiness. Just being. That is the hardest thing in the world. As the mathematician Blaise Pascal famously said, all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. You are attempting to solve the ultimate human problem. Of course it hurts. Of course it feels like dying. You are breaking a pattern that has been running in the human operating system for 200,000 years. Think of the difference between a tourist and an inhabitant. The tourist needs constant novelty. They need the sights, the sounds, the tours, the experiences. If the tour guide is silent for 5 minutes, the tourist gets anxious. Am I getting my money's worth? The inhabitant walks the same streets every day. They know every crack in the sidewalk. They don't need novelty. They have intimacy. You have treated your life like a tourist for too long. You wanted the highlight reel. You wanted the trauma, which is a form of dark tourism, or the ecstasy. Now, you are being asked to become an inhabitant of your own soul. You are being asked to learn the cracks in the sidewalk, to love the rainy days as much as the sunny ones, to find the beauty in the peeling paint, to settle down. This settling down is not giving up. It is rooting. A tree does not run around looking for better soil. It digs its roots deep into where it is, even if the ground is hard. And because it stays, it grows tall, it touches the sky. You have been a tumbleweed blown by the winds of your emotions. Now, in this boring piece, you have the chance to become an oak. But first, you have to endure the stillness of the dirt. Here is the extraordinary thing that happens when you finally stop fighting the void. When you say to the universe, I surrender. I will sit here in this empty room, and I will be bored, and I will be anxious, and I will not move. The universe changes its face. The void stops looking like a black hole and starts looking like a mirror. It reflects you back to yourself. And you realize that the emptiness was just the space required to hold your own magnitude. You were feeling empty because you were huge, and the little pleasures of the world were too small to fill you. You were trying to fill a canyon with golf balls. The only thing that can fill the canyon is the air, the light, the sky. The only thing that can fill your soul is pure consciousness. And pure consciousness is what remains when the entertainment stops. This brings us to the synthesis final. Your crisis, the feeling that living is not enough, is not a failure of character or a sign of permanent damage. It is an evolutionary step. You have not lost your capacity for pleasure. You have evolved beyond your dependence on it. You are one of the few individuals who, through the crucible of suffering, have been forced to see the scaffolding of the hedonic illusion for what it is, a beautiful lie that is no longer useful. The foundation of reality you are searching for is this: you are enough. This is not a motivational platitude. It is a statement of existential fact. Underneath the endless pursuit of external stimuli, underneath the need for drama, underneath the boredom, there has always been a quiet, profound, unshakable presence, the simple, non-dramatic awareness of your own being. This is the reality that does not depend on success or failure, pleasure or pain. Why does this feel so empty and scary at first? Because it is so simple, so direct, so non-dramatic, that your conditioned mind, which thrives on complication and intensity, simply overlooks it. The conditioned mind believes that the solution to a deep problem must be complex and intense. But the ultimate truth is always simple, quiet, and right here. Martin Heidegger spoke of the Lichtung, the clearing. Imagine a dense, dark forest where the trees are so thick that no light penetrates. This is the state of being lost in the cares of the world, the state of the Vey. We bump into things, we struggle, we are consumed by the immediate obstacles. But sometimes, through the arduous work of suffering, or through the sudden felling of the great trees of our illusions, we stumble into a clearing, a space where the trees part. In the clearing, the light enters. It is open, it is silent. For the person used to the struggle of the dense forest, the clearing feels wrong. It feels exposed. It feels like there is nothing to do. Where are the obstacles? Where is the struggle? But it is only in the clearing that the truth of the forest can be seen. It is only in the clearing that being unveils itself. You are standing in the clearing. Do not run back into the dark woods just because you are afraid of the light. Stand in the open, let the sun burn away the need for shadows. If you are still here, you already know this isn't surface-level content. Subscribe if you want to keep going deeper. The ultimate declaration of sufficiency is this: your unconditioned, unedited presence is the only real and lasting source of meaning. The invitation is not to do anything to enter this new paradigm. The invitation is to stop doing. You are already there, standing in the cold starlight, utterly present. You just haven't noticed, because you're still listening for the familiar, comforting sound of the old walls. The void was never truly empty. You were just looking away, waiting for the applause to start again. The question that haunts you, why is living not enough, now stands utterly It is not a cry of despair, but the question of a newly awakened being who understands that unexamined living is the definition of not enough. Your dissatisfaction is your compass. It is the single truest thing about you. You have suffered too much to settle for an experience of life that is merely superficial. You must understand that this awakening brings a responsibility. The psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, who survived the concentration camps, understood that when everything is taken from you, every pleasure, every dignity, every comfort, what remains is the last of the human freedoms, the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. You are currently exercising that freedom. By refusing to sedate yourself, by refusing to run back to the false comforts, you are choosing an attitude of courage. You are choosing to bear the weight of your own existence. This weight is heavy, yes, but it is the weight of reality. And reality is the only thing that can support you. The illusions are light, but they collapse. Reality is heavy, but it holds. So, do not fear the days that feel flat. Do not fear the nights that feel long. These are the days and nights where you are finally meeting yourself. When the external world offers you nothing, you are forced to find the source within. It is a painful birth, but it is a birth nonetheless. We end where we began. The silence in the room, the feeling that something is missing. You look around, you check your pockets, you check your heart, and you realize nothing is missing. The room is not empty. It is full of you, and for the first time in your life, that is funnily enough.